I think Durin is going to be an excellent beginner pull. Let's talk about it. My name is Juice, and let's get into it. So I have been glazing Durin quite a bit recently, and for good reason. This is an S tier character. That's right, we are getting a new character that's joining the likes of Shilunin and Lady Farina and all the like at the top of the Genshin Impact meta. He has a throne, a rightful seat, as one of the best units in the game, and he is going to be sitting among some of the greats. So naturally, for all types of players, he is going to be an absolute borderline must-pull. Now obviously, that depends, and I will make a video on more specific circumstances down the line, but for now, just know that this character is very much worth your investment, and he is an absolutely crazy investment to make. However, how about for beginners? People that are just starting out, you don't really have many 5 stars, is this character still worth getting? Short answer, yes. Long answer, this video. So essentially, if you're just starting out, you're going to be lacking a lot of core integral units to your account. You're not going to have Shilunin, who is actually rerunning in the second half of this patch. You're not going to have Lady Farina. You're not going to have a bunch of these units that comprise a very healthy, balanced account, just like a balanced human diet. However, Durin is going to be a great step in the right direction for you. He is a really good first 5-star to pick up, not only because he's a really good off-field pyro sub DPS, but because you're also able to play him as a main DPS, so he's able to carry you throughout the entire game if you're just trying to get through the quests and whatnot, and then later on down the line, whenever you start to care about endgame teams, he's going to be able to help you there too. He is all around just going to be a very useful unit to you for the entirety of your Genshin Impact journey, because this type of character is just really good for any account, and that includes people that are just starting out and don't have big rosters. In fact, in your particular case, he is going to be especially good, because he's going to be a very good building block to building up your account. What he provides is just so high value to the point where he's really going to be a long-term contributor for you. He does have DPSing teams, however, because we're out of the anniversary period and you're not able to select a standard 5-star anymore, you just kind of have to hope that you get Mona, who's going to be one of his DPSing teammates, or you would try and get Fischl, who's going to be good for his overload teams, and then you would also have to get Chevrus, the character that makes overload teams worth playing, and then hopefully you would eventually stumble across a Bennett. So if you're trying to play him as a DPS in a good DPSing team for him, there is still some setup to do and you do still have to collect some characters, and with Mona it's pretty hard to guarantee that a character because it's a standard one. However, at least at the overload team, you just have to pick up some 4 stars. You're not going to be playing the team at its top potential because you're not going to have constellations for all of the 4 stars involved. However, it at least provides you with a good team to start with. And whenever you down the line want some pyro application, you're going to be able to use Durin as a sub DPS. So all around, you end up having a really nice character to work with. Alternatively, if you're just starting out, getting Venti as a DPS and pulling Durin as a support for him is also a very viable option. In fact, it's a very good option if you're just starting and you don't have anything, because at that point, he's going to feel like a very powerful main DPS for you, and he's also a good DPS in endgame too, even whenever your account becomes more established. So that's another way that you can also end up carrying your account. Because that way, even if you're not able to land Durin's specific DPSing teammates, you can just use Venti as your main DPS, and that's not only just going to serve you well, it's going to serve you excellently. So Durin ends up being a really well-rounded beginner pull on the whole. Later down the line, he is going to become incredibly useful to you, and currently, he is also going to be very useful to you. And the thing is, you can't really go wrong with getting an S tier character. Whenever you pull a unit like this, you're just guaranteed to get bang for your Primo Gems. He's just amazing. And another really nice thing is that even at C0R0, you're getting so much out of him, you don't really need a signature weapon. It is a really good signature weapon, I should add, it's an amazing investment, but if you can't get it, great, that's all fine, you don't really need it. He's still going to be ridiculously good either way. So not only is he good for beginners, but he is good for budget friendliness too. So if you don't even have the pulls to invest into him a lot, that's fine, you don't need all that. You can easily just use him on a more cheap setup, and that is going to work for you. In fact, it's going to work for you quite well, because he's just a busted unit in general. And I will say that he's also just quite a nice character to have as a beginner anyway, because he does so much damage. Now, obviously, Shilunin is a fantastic character. She is really good for a large majority of accounts. However, whenever you pull her as your first 5-star, she doesn't really do damage for you, so while she's really good in the long term and she's just a great character in general, very powerful, you're still not really going to have a character to just carry you in general. Durin can do that for you, and that's a very nice thing. So even if you're only able to get Durin and you can't get Venti, that's fine. He's still going to be very good on his own, and he's still going to have a ridiculous amount of account value for you. However, if you're able to get Durin and Venti and you're able to grind those Primo Gems on the map, especially if you're really new, because then there are just so many Primo Gems that you can grind across the map, definitely enough for 2 5-stars at least. You can probably get a couple of 5-stars if you do everything that's on the Genshin map. Then you're able to play Venti main DPS, and that also provides you with an investment path to invest into Varka down the line. So all around, if you invest into Durin now, and you manage to invest into Venti now, you just end up with this really clean investment path that goes super smoothly, and you're easily going to be able to build a strong team very quickly. And even if you're not able to get all of these different components, that doesn't matter. You're not left with a useless unit. In fact, you're left with a character that is still going to be ridiculously efficient for a very long time to come on your personal account. So, with that in mind, I think it is fair to say that Durin is definitely an excellent beginner pull. In fact, I have no doubt in my mind that he is a good beginner pull. He's just a good pull for any type of player, to be honest, even for more experienced players. In fact, more experienced players already know why Durin is a character to look out for. Pretty much everyone knows why Durin is a character to look out for. It's obvious. The writing is on the wall in a positive way. However, as a beginner player, it's even better, because Durin just ends up being a really good building block for your account on the whole. You get a really good Pyro sub DPS, which, as we all know, is just a really broken archetype, but you get this character that's not only really good now, but is only going to become better later on, while being able to be paired with the character that he's partnered on banners with to form a very strong DPSing team. And because he is likely to end up being good for Varka down the line, not just good, in fact, I expect him to be best in slot down the line, there's also that avenue too. Investing into Durin now is going to open up the chance for you to play Varka's best in slot team down the line if you're also able to snag up Venti. And even if you're not able to do that, well then you still have a really good character on the whole. And that's the thing, if you're only left with Durin, even after everything you failed to pull for any of his other synergies, that doesn't matter, because even Durin just on his own is a valuable character. It doesn't matter what your account looks like, this character is just ridiculously good and strong. And another thing is that he's an S-tier character. We don't get those every day. We get strong characters often, yes, and new characters tend to have a very good shelf life, especially in Genshin Impact. However, with Durin in particular, he's literally a brand new S-tier character. Yes, it doesn't matter what stage of the game you're at, honestly. He is going to be a fantastic beginner pull, and he is an amazing first 5-star. And that's another thing. I think that Durin is a really good first 5-star, no questions asked. To be honest, I think it's a bit of a silly debate. He is obviously going to be really good even if you're just starting out. A better thing that I should say that might be a bit more helpful is that if you've been playing for a little bit, but you still don't have many 5-stars, but you've mostly been investing into Moonglare teams, such as Flynn's teams, Nafer and Llama teams, etc., then perhaps skipping Durin for Columbina would be a better move in your particular case. Simply because getting an off-field Pyro sub DPS might not do much for your particular account. However, just know that even if you do pull for Durin, if your account is in such a state, you're still going to be able to find use for him by simply making him himself a DPS, and even then later down the line, he is most definitely going to find use on your account somehow. That's the thing. An off-field Pyro sub DPS is inherently a very useful thing to have, and is a very good building block to have for your account. He just adds a ton of value to your roster in general, and he has so much effective versatility. So as a first 5-star, he is very effective, and I would say that even if you have invested in Moonglare units, he is still going to be a good pull, but yes, he is definitely more skewered towards Hex and Circle characters, and that is his main niche. However, even outside of that, he's just good as a Pyro off-field sub DPS in general, but even if that doesn't really offer you anything, it's completely fine to skip him now and just pull for him later, whenever that does offer you a bit more value. And if you have Moika right now and you personally feel like that's enough for you and you have enough Pyro off-field sub DPS with that, that's also fine. However, it should also be noted that if you don't have many 5-stars because you're newer, well, Durin is going to be able to fill the role of a good off-field Pyro sub DPS, thus allowing you to play Moika as a main DPS, and giving you more flexibility in the Spiral Abyss when it comes to team building. So he's gonna have a use in basically every circumstance, which is hilarious. However, I can completely understand skipping him right now, because you would rather pull for Columbina instead, because you have invested into Moonglare units. That makes perfect sense. And even if you haven't really invested into those, but you just don't really have a use for this particular type of character, it is completely justified to just pass on him for the time being. But know this, you are skipping an S-tier character. He is a very, very good pull for basically anyone. Beginners, people in endgame, doesn't really matter, he's just going to be fantastic. And it's basically the same case as, say, skipping Shilonen because she doesn't really fit into your Moonglare teams, or skipping Lady Farina because she doesn't really fit into your current modern teams. Yes, they might not fit into your current teams, but they are still general S-tier characters that create a very healthy and varied roster on your account. So just keep that in mind. He is skippable, by the way. I'm making it sound like if you don't pull this character, you're gonna lose an arm and a leg. That's not what's gonna happen. You can obviously skip him. He's not necessarily going to make or break your account, but he very much is going to make your account feel a lot better. He's able to take advantage of the Hex and Circle teams, which end up being very flexible, and there's many different ways that you can compose that. And him being good for Varka down the line just provides this really nice investment path where you can invest into all of the Mondstadt characters right now, and then later down the line you can pick up Varka, and there you go, you've already got one strong team. Man, this character is good. Hopefully this video is able to tell you whether Durin is a good beginner pull or not. This has been Juice, signing out, and you know what? I would pull him anyway just because he's a cute dragon boy.